And now I think we're recording. So once again, thank you all for joining. As I was saying before I forgot to record, uh, distance learning has been going on for a long time. I remember watching an old movie back in the 80s, and it was about some kids in Australia, and they were doing distance learning over a CB radio. And I thought to myself, yeah, that's distance learning for sure. And if anyone can think of that movie, and it's not the Dingo Ate Your Baby movie, but for all practical purposes, I remember also in 1998, I was part of a kind of a revolution in technology in South Dakota education, and that was part of the DTL. It was previously the TTL, and those of you who remember who've been around long enough, Technology for Teaching and Learning, and that's where Dakota State opened up its campus, and teachers from all over the state all showed up, and they stayed for 4 weeks and learned about technology. It was really kind of a really neat time to be in technology and in education. Moving forward, as we progressed along, and I think closer to 2000 was more of the DTL, the distance for teaching and learning. And that's where, if you'd also been in this state long enough to remember, the distance learning VTEL systems. There was like two giant TVs set up, and every school had one. The state provided every school with a DTL learning setup or a VTEL system. And it was kind of revolutionary at the time. But even before that, there was Microsoft had a product called Net Meeting. And webcams were around in that 1999, 1998, 2000 timeframe. And it was pretty neat. The picture size was like maybe 2 inches on your screen, if at best. But you could chat back and forth with folks. And that was remarkable. One of the first things I remember, not really distance learning, but video chatting with my wife when I was deployed in Iraq in 2003, 2004, 2005, was being able to have that two-way video communication. And that was remarkable to be able to do that when you're out in the sandbox, and technology wasn't really that prevalent around that time. But fast forward to now, and we've got so many more tools at our disposal. So I know that no one was really planning on getting into doing this. I don't think anyone could have foresaw that if they looked down in their cup and their tea leaves and said, yeah, we're going to be doing distance learning at the end of the year. No one would have guessed that, myself included. However, having the experience that we've all had doing some kind of distance learning, I'm sure I would probably be hard-pressed to believe that there's no one in this session that has never done an online class before. And even though we've all done it, when the tables are turned, it's harder for us to say, okay, now I've got to be the person to deliver that instruction. So part of that is using Google Meet. And with Google Meet, it's part of the G Suite. And if you guys remember, G Suite is the Google Apps for Education, and is part of this. Now I know there's other products out there like Zoom and WebEx and even FaceTime. The reason why I prefer using, other than the Zoom bombing that goes on with the Zoom product, and I know that they're working on preventing that for teachers and parents and students, is that Meet is kind of more to where you have to be logged in as a user, as a Google, with a Google account, I should say, into using this product. Now with Zoom, you can just get the link and just randomly, I think, join a meeting. You might be able to prod for participants. I don't really use it that much, to be honest with you. And the only reason why is I kind of stuck with one platform. I've used Google or Zoom for my daughter's piano lessons. However, I just stuck with Google Meet just because it's easier for me to work, and it works pretty well with the state K-12 system. So I do have a itinerary for you today, and if you guys stay to the end, this will probably last about 45 minutes or so. If you stay to the end, I will have a code, and I will email those who stayed in long enough to get the code for continuing education credit hours. So I want to make sure that you guys get credit for this. And I'll be putting out an email later today to the whole staff in the district that those who want to participate in these brown bag sessions can get continuing education credit hours for that. So stay tuned, and we'll go there. But you have to stay the whole time towards the end in order for that to count, and it has to be the live session. The going with a recorded session doesn't count because there's no way for us to tell that you watched the whole thing. With that said, let's go into tips for getting started. And one of the reasons I've got lighting and color set up here is I'm kind of a camera nerd. And for those of you who don't know me, is like, I don't mess around with cameras. Like, that's one thing I really do well is camera stuff. And I don't care if you're working with a webcam or a DSLR or even this guy still has film in it. And I use it all the time. Is color balance and lighting. Lighting is everything. Now, saying that, I don't have the best of lighting in my office, so there's a couple things that I was going to give you for some tips and tricks on getting your lighting right. Now, and I'm going to preface this with, I don't want to call anyone out or make anyone feel bad about your image that you're showing. Many of us are sitting like at a kitchen table or somewhere near a light source, and usually you want to be facing the light source. As a photographer, I always want the strongest light to my back. Depends on the situation, unless you're getting a silhouette shot. But the biggest thing I can give you advice for is, if you are sitting at your kitchen table, try to have it, even if the light is to your side, that you can get good lighting. And that's one of the key factors of using a camera. And I don't care if it's a webcam or a fancy camera, is making sure that your lighting is strong. Now, I've got a very, you can see right here, I've got a lot of strong light coming here in my head, and that's because my blinds are down a little bit. So I've got a little friend here, being that I told you I was a photographer. This is a scrim, or a, you get these 5-in-1, as a photographer, I get these 5-in-1 lighting accessories to where it's got a reflector on one side, a gold reflector on the other, silver, gold. And then this is kind of a see-through scrim. I've got like one stop of light or two stops of light on this. With this said, I can take this scrim and I can put this up next to where I'm sitting, and I've got a little stand by my window light. And that's to help kind of take that out. Of course, that doesn't do anything because it's not completely against the window, but what you can try to do is count that out. Now, let's say I don't have one of those, because not everyone's going to just whip one of those out of their back pocket. Not a problem. What you can do is like take a sheet, a bed sheet or something like that, and hang it up by the windows, or just drapes, something of that nature, or just move farther away from the light source to get a little more even lighting on your video, because you want to look good, especially when you're presenting to your class. Other things I've got is color. Now, yesterday I made the mistake of wearing this blue shirt. And so as I was wearing this blue shirt, the color balance in your camera, in your webcam says, oh, that's a lot of blue. And so the more blue that it sees, it adds, it automatically will add more orange or yellow to counteract that and try to make a white balance. So if it sees a lot of orange, it's going to add some blue tint to counterbalance that. And the whole goal of it is to make whites look white. That's why it's called white balance. So today we're something very dark, which if I do that, the camera sees that and it says, oh, it's very dark in here. So it's going to try to pump up the sensitivity of the sensor, and that's why I might see more highlights or any burnt out or overly exposed image parts. Now, if I wanted to, I could wear like something like lighter gray or something very neutral, more skin tone-ish. In that way, it will help keep the colors kind of balanced a little bit more. So there's a lot of dark in this room though, and yeah, for the most part, just keep little things like that in mind. And if you don't want to look like an orange carrot like I did yesterday, don't wear a lot of blue. just because your camera will say blue and it says, oh, yeah. If you were to look at my, oh, what is it? If you looked at my ID card, my school ID card, it's against a blue background. And the camera that they use when you go to take your staff ID picture for the first time is, there's a little point and shoot. Well, the point and shoot camera says, oh, that's a lot of blue in the background. So it made my face look really orange. So I look like a Oompa Loompa. Not that there's anything bad with that, but you get the point. So moving along into our session, we're going to go with creating a meet. And for the most part, I'm going to start from scratch, and I'm going to show my screen. And let me go back into this. And I'm going to go to present now. And that's one thing to where I can say, here's what I want to show. And then once you can see my screen, I'll make sure I check. I can see Deb, Kathy, Alex, Kay, Terry, Melanie. I might ask for some thumbs up on the side there for a little bit. And then we'll kind of go from there if you can see my screen. But right now I'm going to go to present now. Present my entire screen. And I can see Shelly, Deb, Harold, and Kathy. Can you guys see my screen? I got a couple thumbs. There we go. Perfect. All right. So, and Lori, even Lori gave me a thumbs up. And we'll get into that in just a minute. So in starting a Google Meet, I'm going to start right away with going into my calendar, my Outlook calendar. No longer do you have to go into Google Calendar to start a meet. What I can do is go into my Microsoft Outlook calendar in Office 365, my webmail, if you will, and I can simply double click on a date to start a meeting. Up in the upper right, I'm going to go to these little three dots right here, and I'm going to click on that, and I want to get add-ins. And I'm not going to give you time now to do that on your own. If you're fast enough, that's great. If you have a couple monitors, you can do that. And if you're just listening in, that's fine too. But I've already got it installed, but I click on Get Add-ins, and I'm going to do a search. I did a search for Google Meet, and it shows up, and this is not the one, but you click on Add on that, and then it shows up in your settings. So here I've got a Hangouts Meet right here. This is wonderful. So if, let's say you want to do an IEP meeting, or just meet with my third graders, or meet with staff. I can simply click on this Hangouts Meet option, and I can click on Add a Meeting. And what it does is it automatically creates a Google Meet for me. I can send that to my invitees, my attendees. I'll send it to some of my best friends here and my fellow colleagues. And it's going to be an online meeting. I'm not going to add a Skype meeting or Teams meeting because I've already added the Google Meet. So I don't worry about that portion of it. But very simply, I can set up times on here to where I'm going to meet with whomever you're meeting with. In here, it creates an active link, but it also adds a phone number in here. And this is important too, because we do have families in the district that might not have a good internet connection, but they can phone in. Or maybe that's all they need to do is phone in, just to check in. And with this, you can dial into that meeting, and you can do this from a computer. You don't have to do this from your personal phone. I've made several phone calls from my computer in Google Meet, and it acts just like a regular phone service. I do sometimes tell the staff that I'm going to be calling or who are calling in that I'm going to be sending them this link. And then they can use the PIN and then the pound or the hash symbol at the end to make sure that it accepts that PIN. I'm going to later on show everyone how you can also call a person to add them into that meeting. With that said, you can go through the rest of the scheduling assistance and everything else. If you want to do that, that's fine. I'm going to cancel out of this, as I just wanted to show you that one way of doing that from your calendar in Outlook. Any questions so far on that? I'm going to go back into here. And I've got some questions on the side here. A lot of people saying hi. Hey, hi. I can see it. Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate that. Any questions up until this point about adding that from a calendar standpoint? And I don't see any, and so that's good. We will forego that. Let's see. Continuing on then, we're going to go into creating another meeting. Now that you can see my screen, I'm going to open up another tab, which you should still be able to see. I do have a lot of tabs already open. And I'm just going to go to meet.google.com. And I get to this start screen. Right away when you're joining or starting a meeting, you don't have to enter a code or a nickname. If you want to just go right into this and you're just meeting students or staff, that's fine. If you're joining a meeting, that person that you emailed with a code, you can take that code and I can copy that last portion and you can paste that into your other meeting. Now you can paste that code right here. And the tip, you don't have to include the dash. It gives you a tip automatically. Outstanding. From there, you can continue. Now, I'm just going to go with a blank one for now and hit continue. All right, now, this is my meeting room. And this is kind of the waiting area, so to speak. I'm not in the meeting yet. However, what I can do is I can prep some things. Now, what I would recommend to students and sometimes staff is if you don't want to be muted right away, before you join, mute the microphone. You may also mute the camera as well, and that's fine. I do get this information, so if I'm the one initiating the meeting, I can go ahead and highlight this. I can copy this, and then I can email that off to whomever. You can also send that in an Outlook meeting or an invite as well. Let's see. Amy, I'm going to mute you if that's all right.
Yes.
No problem. All righty. Going back in. So with this, now that I've got my meeting ready, I'm going to go in and join now. And once again, it gives me this sharing information, and I can copy this information and email that off. Or like I said, start a new calendar and just paste that in here. 6 in one half, a dozen in the other. It doesn't matter which way you do it, as long as you kind of get that started. I've oftentimes just emailed someone and got that going. Now I do have a question here. And Kristen asks, how do we add students? So that's a good question. Usually sending out an email to parents ahead of time. Hopefully they've got, and the best way that I would recommend is either using Parent Link through Blackboard, because that should allow you to either both text and email your parents as well as your students. And if it's younger students, I totally get that. I would probably go into maybe Infinite Campus Messenger and make sure I send an email out through Messenger. One question I had from someone about Messenger was that the message came back with some errors in it. It could be that there were some inaccuracies on parent email addresses, but it still reached most of the recipients that was in Messenger. So hopefully that when you email the parents, I would email them that link, and then that gives them that option to be able to, if the link's not active, they can copy that. And make sure that you stress that is that you copy the link and then paste that into their browser. So just like such, copy and then paste that into the browser. Hopefully that answers the question. Kristen, let me know if I answered that to your liking. If not, make sure. Okay, good. Kimberly asks, is the process the same in Google Calendar for students as far as creating an event for the students to join? I'm going to say no. I would avoid using Google Calendar because what it's going to do is try to send an email. we use email through the state. The state provides our Google tenant and our Microsoft tenant. And the state has Google email or Gmail shut off for all students. So, and even though it creates an email, the only people that students, especially the younger students, older students can receive emails from outside of the K-12 system. But because Google Calendar creates or generates an email for younger students, it's going to get blocked. They're not going to get that email. So I would stick very close to Microsoft Outlook and or Infinite Campus Messenger. Now, if you're using a Google Classroom, I've got Google Classroom brought up. What I can do is go into my stream, and I can share something with my class, and I can add that to my stream. Likewise, I can also go into Schoology and add that to my updates as well. Or you can add them as an assignment. So if I go into Create Assignment, as long as I still maintain that link, most links are good for 30 days. Most of those Google Meet links that you use don't change or they don't expire if they've been unless they've been inactive for, I'm sorry, not 30 days, 90 days. So let me reiterate that. If you're using a Google Meet, let me paste that. This Google Meet code, along with the PIN and the phone number, those are active for 90 days until the last time that you've used it. So if I stop using it today, 90 days from now, that room will expire. So what have I done in light of that? I've made now a Google Meet that I use for my tech support every day that I use. And I just favorited that. I just went to my favorites up in my browser, created a favorite. I've got my Monday brown bag meets now set up. And I've got my Tuesday brown bag meets set up. Very easy for me to go back to that at any time, and then I can go in and share that information with people who want to go in. So what I did with you guys is I went into that meeting, copied the joining info, I sent an email to everyone that was replied in my form, and presto, you're good. Likewise, Google Classroom, Schoology allows you to do that as well, and I would really stress staying away from Google Calendar. I can't stress that enough. So keep it simple. I know a lot of you might have some other questions on, well, that's not working for me. Stick with me afterwards or email me separately, and I'd be happy to work out some troubleshooting with you on that. Let's see. Kelly asks, I noticed that you muted a person in here. I'm also able to do that for my students, or do they have time when making contact? Hold on. Am I also able to do that for my students? Yes. If you're initiating in now, I got an email from the state. I go to the help desk here, and I go to Google Meet. New things that are rolling out soon, hopefully within about a week or so, is that, let's see, if the teacher is the last person to leave a meeting, students can't join back later without the teacher being in the room. That's going to be huge for teachers. And here's where that the meeting IDs will eventually expire, but only after they've been not used for 30 days. So likewise, if you want to mute the students, let me go back into our Google Meet, make sure I answered your question right. Students can also mute themselves to start, and they can do that right down here at the bottom of the screen. So you notice on the side, if I move my mouse around or stop moving my mouse around, I don't see that white bar at the bottom of my screen. If I move the mouse a little bit, I've got to jiggle that around. Here I can go down and click on turn on or turn off the microphone, and then turn off the camera as well. And that's kind of huge. You know, for a little bit you couldn't hear me, and if you can't see me, now you can see me. So with that said, if I unmute someone, now go ahead, Susan. Did you have a question? Oh, we got you. So she must have been trying that out too. Sorry about that. Anyway, so with that said, if I go over in my left-hand side, and I'm going to show you guys a trick that I've used here. Up in the upper right, I'm going to click on this person or how many people are in the meeting. These are my list of participants. Okay, so now I can see I've got one person who's called in, and I've got other people who are in as well. When I click on someone, let's click on Patricia here. If they're not muted, I can click on this button and I can mute someone. Now, once I've muted them, I can't unmute them. They have to unmute themselves. I can highlight them, or I can completely remove them. And this is one of the topics that I wanted on the management piece to that. And let's go back into make sure I'm covering this. Oh, adding people. Before we get too much more in the management piece, while I'm in this this people section, I can add other people. So let's say I want to add my good friend Mike Christofferson. I can click and I can add Mike to this, and I can send the invite. Now, I'm not going to do that. However, I can add several people to this meeting as it's happening. So I can start my meeting, and I could be the only one in the room, and then I can invite other people. Likewise, I can also initiate a phone call. And like I called Deb the other day, Deb Harold, and she's on my screen here. So when I called Deb, it went right to, I think it forwarded to your personal phone. Is that correct, Deb? Thumbs up. Oh, you can unmute too. Go ahead and unmute.
I was actually at school working, and it came in on the display, and it said Google Meet. Is how it came to me. Yep.
Gotcha. That's that's nice, and hopefully it's got that caller ID for everyone. Because I know one person did not have that set up, and it said, how come I've got a New York phone number calling me? Well, I let them know ahead of time through email saying, hey, you're going to be getting this weird area code phone number. So, and thanks for sharing on that, Deb. So with that said, let's say I want to call, let's call my wife. Add Nikki Martin to the conversation. Kindergarten teacher. Let's see if she answers. No, she's calling.
0536019.
Pretty smart of her, because I was going to prank call her. Anyway, she probably would have said something grossly inappropriate, I'm sure. Probably not. But anyway, with that being said, think of it this way: is if you want to do maybe a mystery Skype with some, I call it a mystery Skype, but maybe a guest speaker of some sort. This is a great way to add another dimension to students with Google Meet. Is start thinking outside the box, not just meeting your students, but if you have a topic that you still want to cover, invite a doctor. Maybe you've got a friend as a doctor or someone in the medical profession, and how they're dealing with the COVID-19 epidemic that's going on, or pandemic that's going on. I know in years past we've called dark matter scientists, the White House chef. And we've done those all through distance learning. Don't be afraid to add a special guest to your session. And this is a great way to do that. And it's just a simple phone call. This works rather well. And there's not a lot of hiccups or hangups in this whatsoever. So with that said, don't think that you can just add students or staff or parents. Get other people, guest speakers involved in your meeting. Using the chat's also a nice feature here, and let's go back to some questions in here. Let's see. And Kelly, hopefully I answered your question on that, on the muting part. Krista asks, so teacher can use same Google Meet link each time when making contact with students? Absolutely. As long as you keep that link secured somewhere. Even if I emailed that, I can go back to that email that I sent, and then just copy that, paste it in my browser, and go from there. Good question. Can the students join the meeting before you join? I would recommend that you would, that I'm not quite sure with the new rollout that's going to be happening. I think right now, yes. But for the future, I would make sure that you join the meeting maybe 5-10 minutes prior, and then just mute your microphone, mute your camera, and then if you wanted to, and you still you're like moving around the house, or maybe getting kids settled down or something like that, You could put on your screen, and what I would recommend is let's do a new one tip that I found is that you can just create a meeting message saying meeting will start in or at 12:30, and you can just leave that screen. So what you're doing is you're going to be presenting your screen basically, and you can get rid of this one. And if you just wanted to hit present, you got full screen. That way, kids have no expectations other than just be patient, calm, and wait. Let's escape out of there. Back in my Google Meet. So good question. Don't have a great answer to it, but there's some tips that you can help with that. Can you schedule the assignment meeting ahead of time? Yes. So in Google Classroom, that would be a good way to do that, or in Schoology. Is this easier to have students join using the app in class link? You could. That's certainly one way to get there. It's just one way to get there into Google Meet. They would still have to use the join code, and they would still have to access that either through email or just type it in. If it's the same code every time, they might have it written down at home. So that's also a good question. Taylor asks, so if you use the same link, the kids will be able to join that meeting whenever and add chat with each other. That's my concern. So they're going to be shutting that down to where it will be moderated. So they'll have to be the teacher there first. And if the teacher gets out, the students won't be able to chat with each other after the fact. So that's a good question. For now, though, it's still there. That's where we have to we have to really lean on our parents now more than ever, and to give those expectations of that. Good question, Taylor. Not a good solution until that new update gets kicked in within the next week or so. Lisa also asks, adding to my question, add the assignment meeting to post in Classroom automatically. I'm not quite sure. Could you unmute, Lisa, and reiterate that? Or
so I was thinking, if like I know I'm going to meet every Wednesday with a class, can I post like that week for this week and next week and the week after? Can I reuse it like that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And if you just tell kids to go back to that post in Classroom, yes. Now to have it repost, that I'm not sure. If I was going to go, let's say I assign this. You can do ungraded as well. Sometimes it might be graded. The participation is graded. I have no idea. Maybe not.
If you go back to assign, and instead of clicking assign, do
reuse. Okay, reuse post.
Okay.
That could be one. Let's go.
Or sometimes you can schedule too. You know what I mean? Like you can schedule an assignment for it to pop up later.
Oh, yeah. So okay, let's go in. Trying to find, and I'm not a Google Classroom aficionado for the simple fact that I don't have any classes. I've got a couple of test classes. If anyone wants to jump in on that question, feel free. I've got a thick skin. It's betterment for the cause.
So if you just type a title, just even any letters, and then you go to assign, and then the arrow that goes down, the drop down by the so there's the assign box. The blue box in Classroom that you were just in.
Try again, Lisa.
Okay, so that if you go back into Google Classroom.
You bet.
And see where the assign box on the top right, there's the drop down.
Okay, schedule. Thank you so much.
So then I can reuse it over and over, right?
I would imagine so, yes. Yeah, that's sweet. I did not know you could do that. See, you've taught me something today. Ta-da! That's perfect. And I would imagine you can just go back and reuse that. Go back into that same one. Edit it. Let's see. If it was scheduled, I imagine you could probably reschedule that. So that's a good one to play around for. If anything, you could reopen that, copy that link, and then just set up another one if it doesn't work, but that's a good one. I'm going to go back to meeting. Thank you very much for adding that, Lisa. That was good. Let's see. Eileen, how do you go from seeing everyone in the meeting to your computer screen and back again? Okay, that's a good question. And let me get into, we've got adding people. Joining Meet, I think we've covered that pretty well, and pasting the link or clicking on a link that you get from someone. The management, muting participants, we covered that. Removing participants, I've covered that. Highlighting or pinning. Let me cover that first, and then we'll get into the views of that and how you get into those views. Excellent question. So with that, let's say I want to highlight my good friend Deb. I'm going to click on this pin to screen. Now she's the forefront. Everyone should be able to see Deb on your screen. And Deb, I thank you for being a good sport. I appreciate that. You are a blessed soul. All right, so now I'm going to unpin right here in the middle. So I just simply click on unpin. Oops. Unpin. And I get back to my blank screen. So that's a way to highlight that. Now, if I wanted to highlight what I was saying, and I would click on my name up here in the upper right, or my visual up here. So here I am. So let's say I wanted to show something fancy. Here's something fancy, and I'm done. I'm going to unpin and go back. Now, so views. Let's take a look at views, and how do I go back out of that? Right now, I'm in presenting mode. I'm presenting. And hopefully, I'm zooming in and out. I'm on my Mac, so if you're wondering how I'm like zooming in and out, it might make some people dizzy. Sorry. But here I would simply click on Stop Presenting. Let me go into another Google Meet. And if I was going to present now, I simply click on Present Now. And you can do a window. So let's say I have two Google windows open. It'll let me select those windows. Or I can do my entire screen. So if I click on entire screen, I've got 3 monitors hooked up to my laptop right now at home in my office. So the one that I want to focus on is, let's say, this one in particular. Or this one, whichever. Now, if you only have one screen, you're only going to see one little thumbnail up here. And I have to reiterate, the other day I had a person ask me, I don't know what a thumbnail is, because I kept saying the word thumbnail. I said, just click on the thumbnail. The thumbnail is this little image. It's this. It's a smaller image that you'll see. So you'll see this, share your entire screen. You'll click on the screen. It'll probably, and if you only have one, it'll just say screen. Click on that screen, and then you click on share. And then you'll be able to see everyone's screen. Now, to get out of that, right now I'm doing that. All I have to do is hit stop presenting. So right now I'm back to just me, and I'm gonna, let's say I pin myself now. So now I'm presenting to everybody, and you're seeing my screen, or my camera, what you're seeing on my camera. And that's basically it. Now, other views that you can do is at the bottom. Let's go back to my presenting my screen. I'm gonna go back into my present screen. And at the bottom of my screen, you're going to see these 3 little dots. And this is one thing I wanted to point out is here I can go in to do my recording. And since I've been recording, I can stop. I can also change the layout. Now, if I go to change layout, I can do sidebar, spotlight, or tiled. Now, if I do, right now I've been in sidebar to where I see several people on the side. There is a new tool that we rolled out. It's a third-party extension, but we wanted to roll this out to everyone anyway. And eventually, Google, I think, is going to be rolling this feature out to everybody. But here I can click on this grid view, because that's one popular feature of Zoom that Google Hangouts hasn't had. So if I click on this, now I can see everyone in that's participating. Now, if you were to all turn on your cameras, you don't have to, but if you were to all turn on your cameras, I would see everyone's picture. Otherwise, I just see your avatar or your, hey, Kristen Mack, John Gary, Linda, Lisa, Kay, Eileen. All right, hey, sweet. All my friends are here. Whee! Now, if I click on any one of these, it moves that bar down at the bottom. And right now, as I'm presenting my screen, you guys are all seeing this on my screen, correct? Thumbs up. Okay, so now I believe everyone else has got this grid view as well, so you could show other participants. So I think if you hit that grid view, you would see everyone's on your screen as well in there. Now, one other cool feature that I've got on here is that we added this feature called Nod, and it's another third-party extension. And this is where you can ask your students, hey, can I get a thumbs up? If you want to raise your hand and ask a question, you can click on that, and it shows up in the lower left-hand portion of my screen. So if you guys click on that little, do you guys all see that Nod feature in the upper left-hand portion of your screen? Okay, I get Kathy says yes. Deb says yes too. So I believe it's installed for your students as well, and we wanted to push that out right away. So that's one way. Oh, hey, Shelly raised her hand. Go ahead, Shelly. Kathy put the wow. Heidi's got the thumbs up. Amy's clapping. Thank you, Amy. I appreciate that. All right, Jackie's. So, and that's a fun engagement tool for your students, and it. The more that they like the feature, or if they're not getting it, they can. That is a Chrome extension, Krista. Yes, and that's one that we decided to add for all students. So we force push that out to all students and staff. Let's see, I'm falling behind on my questions here. So let's see. And Lisa answered the question. Thank you, Kay, for asking that, Kay. Let's see. Everyone does have the grid view, or is an extension we have to add? No, it should be the extension up in the upper right. And as you look at my screen, it should be up here in the upper right next to your people who's your participant list, basically, and in the chat function. So if you're not seeing that, let us know. Submit a support ticket or email me, and then we can get on that. Now, if you uncheck highlight speaker right now, you can see that I've got a green box around my my deal. If I see Melanie's camera. If Melanie was talking, it would highlight her window as well with the green box. You can also include yourself in the grid. If I uncheck that, it takes me out of the grid, and it does that automatically. Another question is, yep, Nod is a Chrome extension 2 that has to be added. So if it hasn't been added, it's unlocked. If you look it up in the web store, let's go take a look at that. So if I go to Apps, Web Store, and I search the web store for Nod, here I can rate it. It's reactions for Google Meet, and we looked at it's safe for students and staff to install. There's nothing collected for information from the students. You just go ahead and add to Chrome if it's not already added to Chrome already. But it should be force pushed to everyone. Not saying that always happens, but let's see. Can these extensions be shared with students so that they may view the class? They should have already been done already. You could walk your kids through that by just showing them literally your screen and then showing them how they can turn those interactions on or view them. They might have to close Chrome. If they're not seeing it, they might have to restart their device and get back into it, restart the Chrome browser, and then it should automatically pop back up. So if you're not seeing it, you install it. You'll have to close completely out of Chrome, restart it, and then you'll see those features. And here I can see both of these extensions in my extension bar up here. Hopefully that answers the question. So you may X out of each student's heads to nod to declutter your screen. Oh, I see. Thanks, Linda. It's kind of cool. So, Linda, can you demonstrate? Can you click on the hands up question? Or anyone, go ahead and click on the, okay, Linda raised her hand. If I click on hers, oh, right here. So if I want to acknowledge that, I can close that out. But you're saying if you can unmute if you want, Linda. You want to clarify on that?
Oh, it was just that, like, your screen can get really cluttered when a lot of kids are like raising their hands and thumb up. So you can just exit out of them to kind of see that, so you can see everybody better. No,
that's a good point. And that's also a way for me as the presenter to clear that queue out as well. So good question, or a good point. Yes. Let's see. Did I miss anyone's questions? So you can also add a Google Meet in Google Classroom. Yes. And if anyone wants any clarification at any time, I always have my personal channel open during the day. I'll just email me. I'll send you the link to it. You can join me, and I'll walk you through anything. It doesn't have to be Google Meet related. It could be related to anything whatsoever. Hey, we're getting close on to the end of time here. Let me check my deals. Now, chat, classroom, the chat feature. If you have a student who is chatting something inappropriate and you see it, I would take a screenshot. You could still deal with that with your administration and then also with the parents, because sometimes the parents might not be in the room at the same time as the child is. Just make sure that that's dealt with. We talked about presenting your screen. Recording. One thing I want to cover on recording. When you're done recording, I'm going to go to right on my inbox. Here, everyone can see my email. So I got an email from Google, and it says, "Hey, your recording and chat's transcripts are now available. It's in Google Drive." So if I go into my Google Drive, and it takes a while to get there, make no mistake. Especially the longer it takes, the longer the video is, the longer it takes to do that. But if I open this up in Google Drive, let's go into Google Drive. I'm going to go into my drive, and I'm going to get a folder that says Meet Recordings. It's somewhere. I always hate that it does it. I'm going to alphabetize. There we go. Here I've got my folder for Meet Recordings. If we double click on that, here I'm going to see all of the Google Meet recordings that I've used. This is yesterday's recording. Other previous recordings. The bigger ones are obviously going to be the longer ones. The smaller file size ones are going to be the shorter ones. But that's my Google Meet recording. And then let's see. From there, I downloaded that, and I can upload that to my YouTube channel. So in my YouTube channel, now, do you have to do that in order for kids to see it? Absolutely not. I can go in, and I can share this video. Just like with anything else in with Google Docs, I can change this to anyone in South Dakota who's got the link can view this. So they can view it. I hit save. Saving. Come on. And I can copy this link, and then I can post that to my Google Classroom. I can post that through an email. I can post that through Infinite Campus Messenger. I can post that to Google Classroom. I think I mentioned that already. All sorts of different ways that you can share that. Now, if I'm going to be sharing that out, this means that anyone who's got a state K-12 email, you might have to switch that to anyone with the link can view it. Now, I wouldn't do it to edit. I would just do it to view it. And that way, if you save that, anyone with the link can see it. It's not super open to the public. It's a pretty specific URL. You'd have a fun time guessing that on your own. So, but that's how that's one of a couple different ways that you can share that out. If you're not a big YouTuber, that's fine. But for those of you who do, you can upload that video as well. Keep in mind that you can also go live via YouTube. Everyone's got that ability in the K-12. I do have a tutorial on that, and I can also walk you through that on your own and separately if you wish. So awesome. Let's see. How do you take a screenshot? That's a good question. So on my YouTube channel, or so hold on. On my YouTube channel, I've got a video called the snipping tool. So if you want to take a screenshot, screen brightness, screen recording, you could use Screencastify as well. That's got a 5-minute limit if you've got the free version. Snipping tool. I've got a video called the snipping tool. If you search my channel, you can find that. If not, I can go in. I can make a copy of it right now. And I will paste that. And so if you clicked on that link, it'll open up another browser for you, and you can watch that video at your own leisure. I do have a step-by-step as well I can send you if you want to email me. If you're on a Mac, it's different. You would do Command-Shift-4 and take a screenshot like I'm on a Mac right now. But the snipping tool, one of my favorite, yeah. Yep, Command-Shift-4. Now, if you wanted to copy and paste that, Lisa Feldkamp, it's Command-Shift-Control-4, and it won't get saved to your desktop. It'll get saved to your clipboard, so then you can paste that somewhere. And if you want the whole screen, it's Command-Shift-3. So, kind of a nerding out on the keyboard shortcuts. So, so excellent question on there. Go ahead, Lisa.
If you want to record your screen, because I can't get Screencastify to work and I have a Mac at home. Shift Command 5, and then you can choose a section or your entire screen, and then it's Shift Command 5 to stop it again.
Perfect. And also you can use QuickTime to use that as well. Now, one thing I didn't write down for today, and I was going to say for Friday, but I know it's Good Friday. I still have to work because I'm in ITS. I don't have the teacher hours. I'm on the 10-month contract thingy. But with my deal, I took you could use your iPhone as well. I used my school issued, you could use school or personal device. Could be an Android, iOS, phone, or a tablet. I took my iPad and I opened up Google Meet, and I joined the same Meet that I did on my laptop. So if I'm a math teacher and I want to show something from my screen going down, I can do that. So if I want to write out stuff, that's one way to do that. You can show the camera on your device. Now, if you're also on an iPad and you've got the Apple Pencil, you can use that as well to write on there and show your screen. All you would do is let's say, I see Kathy here. Let's say Kathy's on an iPad and she's got the camera reversed, and she's got it. The other day I used a mug. I stuck my iPad on top of the mug, and then I just wrote down my features on that. I'll record that on how to do that. I'll record a lesson on how to do that separately, so you guys don't have to sit through the rest of this because we're almost done with time here. But that's an option. So if you want to do live math videos or record in this, you can do that as well. Now, being that said, if you just wanted to record just yourself in the meeting, I have a video on that as well on my YouTube channel, and I recently recorded it just a week ago. And one of it was, or a week and a half ago, using Google Meet to record a presentation. And it's on my channel on the 23rd. Hey, bump up my view count if you would. Shameless plug for that. But what that does is show you how you can just record your own self doing a presentation. If you want to get past that 5 minutes of recording and you don't have a Mac, that automatically it's got that built into the Macintosh software. If you want to get past the 5-minute Screencastify limit, just use Google Meet. Just create your own session for yourself. You're the only person in there, and just present your own screen. That's a quick tutorial on how to do that as well. And then you would record that. You can save that out, do all of that fun stuff. So if you would you can stay on if you want, and you can ask me further questions. I'll stay on as long as you want. I am going to stop recording. Let's see. Let's go down here. Stop recording. I'm going to have you all